let's start with this, because you have a broad look at a large employee base in your role. So what are you seeing as, or what are you facing when you think about, creating a more engaged work environment for employees? What's the biggest obstacle? What's the top of mind, keep you up at night thing that's in front of you right now?
I don't know that I think about it as a keep you up, but it's certainly a persistent kind of how do you fix this, no matter how much you fix it, how do you fix it some more? And fix maybe isn't even the right word. I mean, I don't know that it's broken, more of like, how do you create a great employee experience? How do you create an environment and experience where people want to come? And the reason I see that as being a challenge is because it requires such intentionality. I mean, like you've got the job, but then as a leader, as an employee, you've got to think about this like other thing. Right. Like, what's the experience going to be? What are people feeling? How are they interpreting? How are they filtering all of this? And without that intentionality, it becomes kind of default, and you lose whatever edge, whatever goodness could have come from that, I think.
So how do you think about, or how do you approach trying to create that or shape that experience? Because I think that's one of the challenges that we have from an HR lens is, small group, lots of employees, lots of experiences going on. How do you think about trying to shape that or impact that? What's the approach?
Yeah, so if it were easy, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Correct.
I mean, in years I can tell, no one has it figured out yet. Right. And if they have, they're not telling us about it.
Right.
And so, probably one of the biggest challenges, and so in your presentation there, so you highlighted just Gallup numbers show that like engagement is flat, has been flat as long as they've been measuring it. It doesn't change. We throw money at it, it doesn't change. We do programs, it doesn't change. And I don't know if all the money we're throwing at it is actually keeping it flat, otherwise it'd be tanking, right, or if it's just like treating a symptom without ever getting to the root cause. And it seems like one of the really hard things, and you've talked about this, is that it's all relationship based. And when you think about engagement, people bringing their whole selves, do they trust, do they feel safe? We're all humans, and I know I've both created and probably destroyed engagement, as a peer, as a manager. And that's really hard, because when you think about it from a relationship perspective, like some people are easy to get to know. Some people are not so easy to get to know. Some people are very open and engaging and trusting. Others are very closed and withdrawn. Some people you click with instantly. Some people you just rub each other the wrong way and you have no idea why. Right. And yet, with the work relationship, with the work environment, like just in our private lives, we would just avoid those people. Right. At work, you don't get that option. Right. In fact, for managers, they have to figure out how to lead those people, how to connect with those people, and that's really hard to do. I know when I'm at my best in creating engagement, that's when I am connecting with people. I'm learning about them. I'm finding out about them. Seeing what makes them tick, thinking 3 years down the road for them. Mm-hmm. Where do they need to develop? How can they grow? How can I encourage them without discouraging? Because feedback's a tough, tricky line between what's that little push people need and what's going to cause them to shut down, and everyone's different. And so, I think that relationship piece is probably the easiest, because we all have relationships, we all know how this works, right, and probably the very hardest piece, because you can't buy relationship. Nothing solves for that. There are things that can maybe enhance it, but nothing solves for it.
So I know you have a long and successful career, talent development, and thinking about how to build capabilities internally. So when you think about this challenge, because I think what I just heard you say is that it's really about building a competence around how to create better relationships, have better conversations, make people feel better about their experience at work. What are some practical tips? Like, how do you coach leaders or managers around what they need to do or things they can do to do that with their teams? So
I think an interesting question that I try to ask myself, and I'm not always successful at this, I'm as human as everyone, is, how is the other person experiencing this? How could they be taking this? There's an old marketing adage that to get someone to pay attention, you've got to tell them the same message like 7 times or something like that. Well, I think it's the same in leadership. So you can feel like you're saying the same message over and over and over again, and about the time you're sick of saying it, the other people are just starting to hear it. And they may not be hearing it right. They may be hearing it not what you intended, but they're listening through their own filters and their own lenses and their own perspectives. And that's easy to forget. I mean, it's really easy to miss. I mean, there's so many times where I think, oh, I communicated that so clearly. You know, here's the vision, crystal clear in my head. You know, to them, it's just like in the movies, you know, a compass just spinning wildly versus pointing due north. And I just haven't explained it well enough, or I haven't figured out that I haven't explained it well enough. Because that's always the danger, right? Like, I think they understand. I think other people, I think you understand what I'm saying. And the real danger, like if you're confused, you can ask me, but the real danger is when you think you understand what I'm saying, and we're going down 2 different paths. And I think that just comes back to being intentional, you know, checking in, having conversations. And you know, that's hard to do in the day-to-day, or it can be, because that feels like, well, with work we have discrete tasks. You know, we have this objective, do this task, get this done. Oh yeah, then there's that relationship thing that like fills in the cracks. But oh yeah, as a leader, that is the thing. And then the tasks are kind of the separate piece. And that's so easy to get backwards, so easy to forget.
Can you, is there a like one of the ways that I've at times experimented with that is almost trying to make at least at first, the relationship building part of it feel like a task, almost like, okay, I want you to have these conversations, ask these questions, and then with the hope being over time that becomes just part of their habits. Have you had any luck around, you know, using maybe process or you know, that sort of orientation towards process to help them learn how to build relationship skills?
Yeah, so I think that's a good thing, and I think there's some challenges there, like, you know, anything. One of the challenges is that it comes across feeling like, oh, it's Tuesday at 3:10. Here comes my boss to talk to me. You know, that because that's when the alarm went off on his calendar or her calendar, and that feels inauthentic. But like anything, it's going to feel stilted until we practice it, until we learn it. So there probably is something good in scheduling and thinking about, in doing one-on-ones, having a set list of questions in front of you to go through until you can build up to being more off the cuff. Scheduling, you know, something myself and my peers were talking about the other day, is just like putting on your calendar, hey, get up and walk around. You know, go talk to people just for a few minutes, or even just like, okay, I'm going to run down the hall to the restroom. On the way back, I'm going to make sure I just swing through an area I don't normally swing through, and connect with people there. It's one of those things. It's not easy, but it's simple. You know, it takes the intentionality, the purpose to it, and I think the biggest part's the awareness. How I might do it would may be different than how you would do it. I mean, we're 2 different people, so what would be authentic for you might be very stilted and awkward for me. But just being aware that, no, I need to be doing this. I mean, I need to be doing this every week, every day, being able to check back in with myself at the end of the week going, who did I connect with? You know, who did I miss on my team? Because it's easy to get to the end of a week and go, I've only seen the inside of my office and my computer. What am I missing? You know, what's about to break?
When I wonder, in what you just said too, it made me think about, you know, with leaders sometimes, or managers going out and you saying, like, you know, the way I would do it's different the way you would do it. I think sometimes we've over-engineered from an HR perspective as we've done leadership development. We almost convince managers and leaders that they have to be something other than who they are. And so it becomes awkward, it becomes unnatural, and that might lead to why I don't like to do it. I think about what Kat Cole talked about this morning, and she's like, the way she does things is very different than most executive leaders, but she is, you know, grounded in herself. So I wonder if we need to give leaders permission to be a little bit more of themselves on some level.
You know, so I think a challenge in anything that we're trying to improve, diet, exercise, relationships, work, leadership, whatever, is that as humans, we seem to be wired for like the one right solution. You know, that's what we're looking for. And yet, one that can't exist because we're all trying to solve different problems. You know, so easy example, I want to get in better shape. Okay, what does that mean? I want to do like powerlifting, I want to do marathons. I mean, those are two very different getting shapes.
Right.
You know, as a leader, what do I want to do? Where do I want to connect with? And the idea that, no, here is how you go connect with your people, it doesn't work. And I think people rebel against that, like, oh, it'll never work for me. Okay, well, what will work for you? What is natural for you? I find it really interesting that some of the companies that are most innovative with how they deal with their people, Menlo Innovations, Vega IT Solutions, are tech companies. You know, normally you think of like, this is where people don't go, you know, like, and yet they are the ones who seem to be giving themselves the most permission to just play with what could work.
Yeah.
What is this crazy thing that we might do? I mean, I love Rich Sheridan's ideas at Menlo Innovations. I mean, they allow their employees to bring their infants to work.
Right.
You know, does that work everywhere? No. but what they do, that ethos is just, well, let's try it, run the experiment, let's play with it.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't.
Yeah.
We'll learn something. And that's another thing, that not only do leaders often feel like, well, there's only one right solution for them, but it's got to be perfect out of the gate. Like this whole skill set you've never learned your entire life, go nail it. And if you don't get it 100% right, you know, like the way the leadership guru did it, well, you failed.
Done.
Yeah. And that's not true.
Right.
I mean, you know, it's not true at all. It's a skill we need to practice and learn, and we'll do good at it, and we'll really screw up, and we'll think I'm a horrible human being, and then we'll come back from it, and we'll beat ourselves up, and we'll give ourselves, you know, we'll beat ourselves up when we shouldn't, we'll give ourselves kudos when we shouldn't.
Right.
It's all the learning process.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter necessarily if we feel like it was perfect, if the people on the other end of that interaction feel like they got what they needed.
Well, and you know, another thing that comes to mind there is, I suspect engagement is a trailing indicator. So a friend of mine in sales, you know, sales is a trailing indicator of all the other stuff you did right up before then.
Right.
You know, engagement isn't, oh, we have a conversation now, suddenly, you know, you're engaged, I'm engaged, we're done.
Right.
No, that's, you know, 3 months ago, 10 years ago, you know, people hang on to stuff, they form stuff, and that can take a long time to overcome sometimes, you know, for good or for bad.
Right. True.
And you know, just as another thought, we talk about engagement from a leadership perspective, but there's also engagement from an employee perspective. You know, you look around, like you go to the grocery store, look at the crowd of people there. How many people there look like they're truly engaged in their life? You know, it's not 100%.
No.
In fact, when you look at Gallup's numbers, it might be real similar to Gallup. So people who are disengaged in their personal life aren't going to show up and suddenly be wonder employee.
Right.
And so, and I don't know how to solve for that.
That's a big issue. Yeah.
You know, as leaders, I don't know that we can create engagement in disengaged people. I know we can create disengagement in engaged people, and so you know, the equation doesn't work both ways, and that's a challenge there too if we think it does.
Well, and maybe, and I wonder if that's what Work Human is about, is maybe it's taking on that challenge on a broader level, saying that like, if we can't help people get more whole in their personal lives, we're never going to help them get fully whole in the workplace.
You know, I think there's a big part there, and it's so easy to look at the other person. Like, as I'm listening to speakers, I hear other people, honestly, I hear myself saying things like, oh yeah, this person needs that. You know, oh, well, if only the managers got this, if only my team got this, you know, if only my employees, if only my spouse, if only my kids, if only everyone else in my life got this. That's what they need. No. I mean, I am the common denominator in all of that. What do I need to do as a leader, as an employee, as a parent, as a spouse, you know, whatever aspect of my life to be able to show up, to be able to be fully human, to be all in what I'm trying to do. And you know, that's not easy to do. That's hard to do on a daily basis.
It is. Powerful place to start, though.
Absolutely.
Thanks, my friend.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.